Okay, cool. So I will start. Apologies. I know we had someone on Facebook. What happened to the other live? I apologize. It ended because we had technical problems. El sobrino de Bonsai. Hola Max, ¿cómo está? Ah, no, hola Juan. Escuchado de vos. Estás en España ahora, me parece. So, welcome everybody to Skinsights on skin and nutrition. So I will be talking a little bit about how VMV has sort of evolved over time to really prioritize how we think about the skin and skin care, to go from just what we put on the skin to a more holistic kind of approach to skincare. So later on, as usual, I'm going to get started talking about VMV. But before we even do that, please remember, particularly on YouTube, to like and subscribe and click the little bell thingy so you don't miss notifications. We're going to be putting up a lot more content. My goal is to get some pre-recorded content as well to really talk about regimens and get deep into certain topics. We heard some feedback that the lives are great because you can ask my mom questions live, but that sometimes we can't delve into a topic as deep as we'd like because we are trying to answer your questions. So we will have content going up to be really, really more targeted to certain topics. So please don't forget, again, like and subscribe and hit the little bell thingy. And don't forget to comment and early with your questions on Facebook or on YouTube, so we make sure that we get to as many questions as we can. So skin and nutrition, I'm old enough to remember several extremes, or two extremes, and the current middle thinking of skin and nutrition. Extreme number one was peanuts will give you acne. Chocolate will give you acne, like immediately, right? Which wasn't really based at the time on evidence. It was more like an old wives' tale and anecdotal stuff. Anecdotal. And extreme number two was food doesn't affect skin at all. It's all a myth. So it doesn't matter. You can eat chips and whatever to your heart's content. It doesn't really matter. And the current middle is the understanding of inflammation has thankfully really become more robust with many more studies, a lot more evidence showing that, all of our daily practices, and which really is commonsensical if you think about it, all of our systems are interrelated. So there's been a wonderful series of talks by a doctor named Antonio Sison, recently in the Philippines, and he showed a fascinating progression of studies from like psychiatry and dermatology to psychodermatology to psychoendocrine dermatology, etc., psychoendocrine immunology. So even in medicine, we're seeing a lot of specialties intertwined because our systems are really intertwined. So with regards to skin and other habits that have to do with inflammation, like how much sleep that we get, how much exercise we do, how healthy we are overall, has become really, really important in the clarity and health of our skin. To the point that my mom, when she sees patients, will always ask, what do you do for a living? What are your habits? What is your diet like? How are your stress levels? Did I mention sleep? How much are you sleeping? She really gets into the lifestyle of a patient, not just the skin, because it really all affects the skin. And another nice thing that I like to share with people that you may or may not be aware of, dermatologists can be the first spotters of warning signs of other things going on in your body. We had a friend who went to visit her for a dark ring around the neck that she thought was just a pigmented contact dermatitis from like a necklace she'd been wearing, which is very possible. That's I thought it was a great sort of self-suspected diagnosis kind of thing. But when my mom took a look at it, she kind of suspected other things based on the history and the way it was manifesting and all this, that she had an endocrine problem, which she did. So dermatologists are great for that. And so what was interesting is when we first got into virgin coconut oil, she was really clear that it had to do with both putting on the skin, that it was important because it was a lipid, a humectant, an emollient, a moisturizer, could help repair damaged skin barrier, etc. But that it was also great to take internally. So this is Know It Oil, as you guys know. That is our virgin coconut oil. That's, you can't see it well over here, but that, no, you really can't see it well, but that is an image of one of the published studies, the actual published studies on this thing. And you know, we don't mention it, but you can certainly Google 300 million articles about its health, not just random sites. I mean, peer-reviewed published articles about how heart healthy it is, how great it is to intake as well as put on your skin. We always say, and you can look at it as well, even RBD coconut oil, which is the cheaper coconut oil really common around the world, comes from copra, is heat extracted, is refined, bleached, deodorized. Even that is a healthier oil for cooking than most cooking oils, particularly partially hydrogenated cooking oils. And it's interesting because many cooking oils are partially hydrogenated to try to mimic the stability of coconut oil. The problem is partial hydrogenation ends up causing trans fats, which are really bad for you. So cooking with coconut oil is a great idea. What we would suggest is for applying on the skin, for gargling in the mouth and swooshing around in the mouth, and for your hair, and for your salads and coffee, use pure, organic, cold-pressed virgin coconut oil. For cooking, you can use the cheaper stuff, and it's actually still really good. And oils, well, we were just talking about this earlier with Isla, is that right, on YouTube? Or Penny. That Oils Well, it is another product we make, is the same as virgin coconut oil, but it has pure monolaurin as well added back into it. So you can find these and many of our other products on vmvhypoallergenics.com internationally and vmvhypoallergenics.ph in the Philippines. And in the USA right now, we're giving away a free, Boo Boo Bomb, travel sized Boo Boo Bomb. This thing is like one of our best sellers and everyone loves it for everything. So lip balm, wounds, my kids love it because it's an ouchless wound thing. Everything, blisters on the feet, I mean, use it everywhere. It's really great. And in the Philippines, we're giving away a free Essence Clark Wash, which is an extremely gentle, allergen-free hair and body wash that is great for taking with you as people go back to work, people start going outside, because it's gentler for frequent hand washing, and it comes in this really cute I Get My Do pouch. So that's ongoing now. And all over in .ph and .com, these, the travel size of our virgin coconut oil, these guys, you get 30% off when you get 5 of these guys. And they're awesome. A lot of our frontliners like them because they can keep them in their pockets. You can keep one in the pocket, and so it's great for frequent use, really handy. And we use it at home. We keep it in multiple rooms and stuff, so people really use it for further protection. And other things for viewers in the Philippines, if you have or know someone who has chronic spontaneous urticaria or hidradenitis suppurativa, VMV Skin Research Center and Clinics is still looking for subjects. You'd need to be screened, but if you qualify, they're wonderful clinical studies. And if you'd like a teleconsultation with my mother or any doctor or nutritionist that we work with, drop us a private message, a direct message, and we'll help make that happen. And remember, for everywhere, you can drop us a private message and share your patch test results with us, and we can help customize recommendations based on your particular allergens. And if you're interested in taking monolaurin pellets, you can get this at VMV Skin Research Center and Clinics. Again, that's how they look. So VSRC has this. You can find them on Facebook, VMV Skin Research Center. And yeah, we'll help you that way. But so going back to skin and nutrition, what's become clear in terms of what you eat is what our grandmothers recognized as food is what we should be eating. And I like to shorthand it all the time to the Mediterranean diet, which is more fish, oils, omega-3s, less sort of saturated animal fats, a lot more fresh fish, fresh veggies, fresh fruit, olive oil, but add more coconut oil, than even olive oil, and it's a great kind of diet. And yeah, I'll be introducing my mom soon. And I think it's nice because she'll give a very different perspective on skin and nutrition being a dermatopathologist. So I'll call her in now. Yay. Hello. Don't you look lovely?
Thank you, my
As
dear.
usual.
Thank you. Where do I look?
Right there.
Hi.
Say hi to everybody.
Hello, everyone.
So, okay. I mentioned earlier that in addition to her being a ridiculously well-published research physician internationally, as a dermatopathologist, you get a different perspective on the skin because you study the skin microscopically. So if you've ever had a biopsy where people take a tissue sample from you, they're the ones that they send that to look in the microscope and understand what's going on at a cellular level. And she's also been, in my mind, an early adapter of the idea that taking care of the skin isn't just procedures, it's not just lasers, it's not just injectables, it's not just what you apply on the skin, but it's also what you eat, how you sleep, your mental health. Like, I think she really looks at the skin holistically. Mm-hmm. So she's also commonly called on for hospitalized patients who then develop skin problems, mm-hmm. possibly from from medicines, that cause reactions. So I thought she'd be great to have to talk to us about skin and nutrition.
She's my daughter. That's why she brags so much about it. But thank you so much, Lau, for the introduction.
And of course, I know everything about you. So, no, we'll start first, and then we have two questions already waiting. The first is the, I guess, $1 million question, because it does affect all of our grocery planning from here on in. Does diet really impact the skin?
It does, in fact. It really does. If you think about it, it's the thing. It's it makes up the materials that we burn inside our body.
That's right.
To form the inflammation that energizes our cells. So it's very, very important. As a matter of fact, diet has become more and more. I mean, years ago we were just given this very simplistic way of looking at diet, which is avoid, and this is, you are supposed
and
to
avoid all oils, right?
All oils, yes, and minimize the oils in your diet, and really just go into high carb instead.
Yeah.
Remember
Do you
those
remember?
years?
Yeah, and
spaghetti and
and
we were
everything
eating it
said
like crazy.
Everything said oil free, fat free, fat free, fat free.
So, and then there was that pyramid which showed all of the breads and whatever at the very base, and then going up until the oil was way up on top. Well, that has changed
Totally
because
been
of
upended,
many,
yeah.
many studies that have shown that in fact we need 20 to 35% of our diet to have oil in it, for the simple reason that oil is an important fuel to not just burn. So it's important in oxidation and inflammation, but it's also part of the living cell. Each and every cell in our body is covered rather, or surrounded by what we call the lipid bilayer. Even this COVID virus has a lipid bilayer membrane kind of thing.
People forget our cell walls are made up of fats.
Right, and so it's important what they're made, what they make of. Coconut oil has become a favorite study oil over the years,
Mm-hmm.
for the simple reason that it's readily available in my country. And when I first got introduced into it in 1998, like that, by talking with Dr. Kabara in Beijing at the World Congress, from him I've heard all the fantastic laboratories.
Thank
wonderful.
you. Sorry, this
Thank
is
you.
my daughter delivering the important
Hi.
latte. They can't see you.
Thank you.
Hi.
All right.
You
She
asked for
also,
that.
she also has to take the coconut oil at home. So
Yeah.
anyway,
With coconut oil, coffee, decaf, straight from the Cordilleras, someplace like that. Okay, where was I?
I have a break
So-
till 9:20.
so why
Why
does
that?
food really impact the skin? If you
The
were to
most
think-
important
there's no
thing
way you're gonna
I got from that meeting was that there were so many laboratory studies already. That was 1998, but since the 60s, 70s, there were lots of studies already on coconut oil done, not in the Philippines. I mean, in the Philippines it was about how to extract it, perhaps, and all those other things related to the production. But on actual function of the oil, there was laboratory studies coming out of Chicago, the CDC, because of Dr. Kabara, and many others then followed around the world. The important thing about their studies is that they were all laboratory studies. Fantastic, microbial, antiviral, all that. The clinical part of studying any kind of a diet is really very important, because you may get it in Sprague-Dawley mice, you may get it from rabbits, you may do your testing in all these animals or even in the laboratory, but it's really how it performs in human that's very, very important. So that's what I started there for, is do clinical trials on coconut oil, and discover that voila, the very first study I had was on the antiseptic use of it. I compared coconut monolaurin versus isopropyl alcohol. It's fantastic. 2 studies, one and one.
Right, but going back to food though.
Sorry. That's why I'm here with my daughter, so she can control me, right? Because
I mean, it's all interesting, but I want to make sure we do talk about food and skin.
the most important thing to remember about food is that, as far as oils, is what fatty acids does it contain. All right? And what makes coconut oil is unique is that it contains 50 to 53, anywhere from 47 to 53% of its fatty acids are lauric acid. Very important.
Guess what lauric acid makes? Or is? It's monolaurin, right? Monolaurin is...
It's broken down by the lipases.
That's why it's such a fantastic superfood. Really,
lauric acid is the one that has been really shown to have many antimicrobial properties, broad spectrum.
Right. But before we go there, so simple answer, does food really affect your skin? Absolutely. Right? Second, we know that, and we discussed this in last week's live, we are coming from several decades of fat-free, 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 and a food pyramid that had carbs on the very bottom, meaning you had to eat the most of, right? And as it went up the pyramid, at the very, very top, at the least amount was fats and oils. And over time, we've realized that that's not entirely true. Healthy fats are absolutely necessary. Healthy oils are absolutely necessary in the diet.
20 to 35%. Remember the figures.
Okay, so she actually breaks it down how much oils you need to have in your diet in her book. It's actually a really cool book because it's not just about coconuts. It does talk about other oils and how much of them you have to have in your diet. And the reason they're important is because the cell walls of the cells in our body are made up of made up of fats, lipids. So it's like they say, you need a lot of water, and how much % of your body is water? Similar rationale, maybe, if that helps. So yes, food is important and does impact skin. But what about, remember the old wives' tales of like, halaka, don't eat peanuts or don't eat chocolate because you're going to get acne right away. And for a while, that was a thing. And then for another while, it was like, that's all just myth.
Before I answer that question, let me go back to what she was talking about. Being a holistic or a functional dermatologist, because that's basically what I call myself now. The reason being, as you continue to study medicine the way they're coming out, you'll find out that more and more people realize how important it is to look at the entirety of the human body rather than just going and making a diagnosis. This is what we do when we do a skin biopsy. Somebody sends a biopsy, we look at it, we don't even have to ask for the history, and I can say this is psoriasis, this is eczema of some kind, this is a drug eruption, etc. Diagnosis. Actually, your treatment is not based on that diagnosis. Your treatment should include the diagnosis that was made plus the other factors in your human experience that add on or that trigger that problem.
Including your diet.
Including the diet.
So going back to from before, like peanuts and chocolates will cause acne, to several years after, that's all just myth.
Well, there are, I reviewed the recent studies on acne, and there are the foods that are said to and shown in a number of studies already and in reviews of them are that dairy products. And the other one are, so not a little, but much, right? It's always balanced. Remember this, the diet all means...
Right,
means
before we get into this, again, and my kids say this, I've been saying this I've been saying this to them since they were young. So when I go to them, life is what? And they'll say balance.
Right.
Life is balance.
Yeah.
So when we say acne can be caused by dairy, it doesn't mean having a glass of milk a day will make you break out in 2 hours, right? It means if you eat a lot of dairy, you have milk in the morning, you have milk in your cereal, you then eat a lot of cheese and a lot of milk, then maybe, yeah, it can be contributive to acne. Not just that, if there are other factors, because remember, if you haven't learned anything else from all her talking in the lives, acne is nothing if not multifactorial. There are many factors
That's
that go
right.
into it.
That's
So
right.
you could be someone who drinks a lot of dairy, but because you don't have other factors that contribute, that make you more prone to acne, maybe it's not going to be a problem. So it's not so straightforward, right? But
Right.
these are just some things that we know. I know another one that is a big deal is inflammatory foods.
Yes.
Things that we know are extremely highly processed. I won't mention brands. So chips, God, you know,
Processed
popular,
foods.
yeah, popular snack foods, right? But even juices. So everyone loves to drink juice. I'm so healthy, I drink juice. And if you look at the package, right, anything that is made for long-lasting shelf life, good Lord, there's lots of preservatives. There's so many artificial flavors. There is dye. Dye is a huge allergen. So she'll get some people with like contact reactions here because of drinking the juices, right? What else? Too many candies and chocolates and that sort of thing.
There are two words that stuck out in my mind as I listened to her. One is balance, and you heard what she said. Even if I say VCO is great, it doesn't mean it's the only oil that you're going to use. Because even the long chain, polyunsaturated, they have their
some
uses.
benefits, exactly.
They have benefits, so you have to balance them.
Exactly.
So rather, therefore, the next thing that the other word that I have is labels. Learn to read the labels on the back of things that you buy. If you don't, not buying directly from the market, of course, which is really what I favor, organic and market bought and cooked in the
Fresh
kitchen.
market. She means outdoor markets. Right?
So, what is it? The
Labels, to look at the labels.
In the labels, you look and see. Well, I just learned something new this morning. A lot of people have been asking me about the use of MCT oil versus coconut oil. I was very excited. My daughter, who's a fourth-year medical student, looked into the internet. She said, "Mom, there are lots of studies on MCT oil. It does this, that." Except that one of the most important things about MCT oil is supposed to be it's antimicrobial. Well, I looked into the back label of Bullet. Is that what it's called? Of some kind of an oil that is MCT oil, and I look at another, and voila. I realized that the MCT is not the medium chain triglycerides of natural coconut oil. They are C6, C8, C10, and C12, right? Those are the MCTs in raw natural coconut oil. They are caproic, caprylic, capric, lauric acid. Those are the four. Those are considered the top most. But lauric is so popular in the whole world. They buy lauric acid from fractionating people anywhere who produces oil, and the lauric acid alone is used by the veterinary industry. Uses a lot of it because it's
That's
great
right.
antibiotic for the animals, and so therefore, what is left out of the coconut oil when people fractionate it, which is what MCT oil is they have a lot of caproic, caprylic, capric. Look into your MCT oil if you're taking it, and look at the ingredients, and you will see you'll see the words caprylic, caproic, but there's hardly or no lauric acid, like the two I examined. So look into it. This is where labels are important.
Right.
I was wondering how can I talk about MCT? How good is it? And whatever. It's one of the things that I've looked at. Well, the most important thing about the coconut oil is I encourage people to have a little bit of it every day, used as both as an antiseptic, then as an antiseptic for the mucosa, gargle and swallow.
And up the nose.
Right, into the nose and inhale. The reason I recommend that very highly is that it is it has 50% plus lauric acid, so it's antiviral,
Okay, I'm
antibacterial.
gonna interrupt now because we have a lot of stuff to talk about, and y'all have heard about VCO and oils. Our last 2 lives were precisely about this thing, but we want to talk about the kinds of foods that can affect your skin, right? And so inflammatory foods, highly processed foods, anything with a lot of dyes. When she's talking about looking at labels, that's what you look for. When it says vegetable oils, that's not such a great thing. It usually means a certain level of partial hydrogenation. Look for trans fats. The problem is something can claim trans fat free and still have under 1% or something.
Yeah.
And it's cumulative. So if you eat a lot of these junk foods, you're getting more and more of those almost nothing trans fats, and it's enough to cause a problem. Plus, some of the stuff that is used or that is produced by the processing of this stuff, your body doesn't recognize as food, and so it's tough to process. And there have been other studies showing buildup in the brain. It's an issue. But let me first get to some questions that we've had. The first is, does hyperacidity, this is from Penny, does hyperacidity or problems in digestion like acid reflux and gastritis cause unhealthy skin?
It will depend. You see, this is the holistic approach.
Right.
It will depend upon what brought you the hyperacidity. If the hyperacidity that you're having is due to some drugs that you're taking, that makes it hyperacidic. If it's due to a problem with the entire inflammatory, intestinal tract for this and that and the other reasons, you can that. So you have to look at the source for the hyperacidity.
I think another way of putting that is directly per se. Are there certain skin problems that are associated with gastroenteritis, hyperacidity, and digestion issues? No. But many of these things are interrelated, right? So
I'll give you another example. Excuse me.
Okay.
I'm really sorry.
No, fine.
She's my daughter.
That's why you're
I
here.
can't interrupt this.
They're here for you, not me.
So, a good example, again, you've heard me talk about the fact that there is chlorine all over, from the floors, from the things that we mop and clean and everything else. And what it does is that it goes into the mucosa of the nose, throat, and it produces a recurring cough that people are wondering, why am I having a recurring cough? Even me, you can hear a little bit of roughness there. That's because you cannot avoid it at all. It's there, and it is airborne particulates that get into the throat. When you cough constantly, what happens is that you get a reflux as well, and that reflux can give you the hyperacidity that you're talking about. So there are so many reasons for it. Taking antibiotics as well changes the microbiota of your gut, and so therefore it can also increase the hyperacidity there. So the question was, what was it about the hyperacidity?
Does hyperacidity or do problems in digestion like acid reflux and gastroenteritis cause unhealthy skin?
So that relationship with the skin, therefore now you can see the connection. The healthy and unhealthy skin may not directly be really due to the hyperacidity, but the reasons that
are also causing the
hyperacidity.
So again, it could be because of something. If you're taking a drug that's causing the hyperacidity, the same drug could be causing dryness, hyperpigmentation, or other skin concerns. I was going to say something else. There's so much work now on the microbiome, the healthy bacteria we're supposed to have in our guts. If, because as a child like me, you took antibiotics so often, I had a condition, then you probably decimated a lot of your microbiome. And that can cause gut problems that could potentially cause other systemic problems. Also, if you happen to be eating a lot of foods that are inflammatory and are contributing to the problem of the gastro issues, the same inflammatory foods could also be contributing to skin problems. So it's not, again, that the hyperacidity or the gastrointestinal problems cause the skin problems, but several of the same things that might be causing one could be causing the other, I guess is the way we'd answer that. From Juan Gabriel Lopez, he's actually Bonsai's nephew in Spain.
Okay.
Hi. Coconut oil is really expensive in Spain. What do you think about extra virgin olive oil for skincare? Oh, fabulous question.
Yeah, olive oil I love. You know, it's part of the Mediterranean diet and
on
a
skin,
lot of studies.
not eating. Skincare.
This is for skincare, right?
Yeah.
Okay. The problem, if you want to call it a problem with olive oil, is that it's actually a favorite of mine as an enhancer because it breaks down the barrier a little bit. So it's a drug enhancer. It's an active ingredient of topicals that I allow the. Give you an example. My favorite nowadays is to use a neural kind of a medicine that people drink in order to control pain. Well, the pain is mediated by nerves that go into the skin, and so I have a published study. This just came out a few months ago in the International Journal of Dermatology on using that particular neuroleptic topically. It has small, it has small micron size, molecular size, but I want to be sure that it really goes into the skin. So I place a little
Olive
bit of
oil
olive
first.
oil into into the concoction, and it goes in. And within minutes, just a few
Right.
minutes, a patient who's been in pain or itching severely smiles and goes to sleep. So there is a use for it in many ways. In the diet, it's been shown to be very, very good because it's mostly mono.
But on skin, it
unsaturated.
can disrupt the barrier a little.
Yes.
So that's the concern about olive
So
oil.
topically, not so good.
Not so much. But in food, it's actually quite great, but not for cooking.
Let me also warn you that most people think you get the oil and you slosh it all over. You don't. You use less than half a teaspoon. I use less than half a teaspoon to apply, go here, go in my nose, and then gargle the rest of it. You don't use that much oil at all in doing this thing daily.
Yeah.
Because remember, it goes into the skin, it gets absorbed, it breaks down into its fatty acid in there, and it stays. And you don't have to apply it more than 2 or 3 times a day. I apply it in the morning, I apply it at night. It stays. And this has been shown again in studies. A fantastic one just came out of San Diego about the fact that when they use it in this study where they they stop using the products that they were using, then they use these products at all that they're going to do molecular studies on to see how much of it remains in the skin and then goes out back again.
Yeah.
They found out that just applying it the usual twice a day of a skincare product, they can get the molecular signals of that product even as long as 3-4 weeks after.
Okay. So again,
It's not
olive
alcohol
oil,
that gets
olive
evaporated.
Olive oil does have its uses, but as a topical skincare, it can disrupt the skin barrier. So just be clear about what it is you're using it for topically. As a food, it's fantastic, but
That's right.
better raw or better not for high heat cooking. While coconut oil stability can withstand that, olive oil cannot. Next question we have is white spots or streaks on nails. Is this a sign of nutrition deficiency? Penny Lane, you are my nail sister if this is your problem. I have had white streaks all my life. And yeah, what do you think of that? I've never been able to deal
it
with
can be again dietary. It can be related to a pulmonary problem. It can be minerals. It can, there are lots of possible reasons. But linear changes, if there are many of them or if there's only one of them, it's different.
Yeah.
If it's only one, there may be a defect in the development of that group of cells there at the base of the nail or it was destroyed in an accident so that it can no longer produce pigment, and so therefore that's why it has a linear line.
Calcium was once a suspect. My daughter has it as well. So clearly, genes play a part. I would definitely still have it checked by a dermatologist though, because some streaks can imply other things. Some dermatologists will look at streaks as signs of a certain kind of psoriasis or something.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's important to get that checked. A question from MA on YouTube. How about oven-baked mushroom chips?
Oven-baked mushroom chips.
Depends what's in it. Look at the ingredients. If you see vegetable oils,
Oh, you mean from packages?
yeah, anything prepackaged, right? It's food. Food rots. Unlike skincare, and we have a post on vmvinskin.com about skincare doesn't typically expire, right? Unless it's a drug, in which case, yes, the efficacy goes down. But skincare does not rot the way food does if you just leave it out, right? So food will rot. So for it to be able to survive long periods in a package on a shelf,
It has to be processed.
it has to be processed.
Dehydrated.
Something I think that's
Preserved.
less processed or less evilly processed is just being dehydrated. So if it's just dehydrated, maybe that's not so bad. But if it has preservatives, if all these
Added
things,
colorants to make the color look
exactly,
like mushrooms.
then it could be a problem. So I would really look at the ingredients. If it says vegetable oils, it's not so great, but could be worse. I would look at any added preservatives, artificial dyes, any dyes, and artificial flavors. It really depends what else is in there. Is it better than fried chips? Arguably so, yeah. Especially if the chips are fried in partially hydrogenated vegetable oils. So, Jean Olga Esperanza on Facebook, does drinking detox supplements help improve our skin besides eating healthily?
What exactly are detox?
Yeah, okay. So I might be able to answer this because I know some of these things. There are products that are marketed as detox. We're not quite sure what that means medically, because medically, when you talk about detox, you're talking about removing a toxin, a poison from the body,
Right.
which, except for very particular medications, you can't really do unless you're maybe in a hospital, right? So the detox, we even have a skin detox kit, and we put ours in. I won't talk about that. So anyway, if you detoxing is something that
It's not specific.
Yeah.
It's such a broad subject. What do you detoxify?
exactly like
Yeah.
did we
Are you
eat-
detoxifying the products that are made out of the oxidation process that's going on in your body?
Right.
I mean, there are just
so many. Also, the other thing, you look at a lot of the health drinks that are out there, detox or exercise drinks or whatever. Again, look at the ingredients.
Right.
Oh my gosh, the amount of food dye,
This
the
long.
amount of there's such long. They're really not great, and sometimes sugar. So sugar, and more sugar. So, for the most part, you want to be healthy, eat healthy, which really means from the diet. Now, one thing that I'll mention here is juicing can be a great addition to your diet. But ideally, if you juice yourself. Again, if you buy something from outside, for it to survive, there might be added preservatives, right? But if you make your own juices, the downside is you miss a lot of the fiber. So again, life is balance. So ideally what you're doing is you're eating fruit, you're eating fresh, uncooked vegetables. So you get all those antioxidants, all those nutrients, all those minerals, all that fiber. So we have good salads at lunch and at dinner. But on top of that, with the juices, to make one juice means a lot of veggies, right? So you get all those additional nutrients and minerals, but you won't get the fiber. So you still do need to eat it. Eating your antioxidants, eating your vitamins and minerals is always so much better than taking supplements.
that's right.
Caveat there, check with your doctor. Your doctor might say you do need, if you're pregnant, you need folic acid. You might need iron pills. You might need certain supplements. But for the most part, a lot of the supplements, there's so many studies out there proving they don't really do anything, or a lot even of, like vitamin C is notoriously unstable. So to just process vitamin C to put it in pill form, you're getting very, very little actual vitamin C. But again, check with your doctor, okay?
I'll repeat this. Dr. Halliwell came out with something called the antioxidant paradox. We're talking about toxins, right? So antioxidants, supposedly against this. And his studies showed that he reviewed for many, many years, 20 to 30 plus, the studies on antioxidants and what it did on people who exercise or people who did this, or cardiovascular disease and all of that, and cancer. And the review of his studies showed that the vitamins, these vitamins were all people are drinking a lot of hidden or actually, presented as such, that there's really no good evidence in the
Yeah.
studies that they in fact really protect against a particular disease that you were testing. And he actually therefore called it the antioxidant paradox.
Mm-hmm.
So that was back in 2010, 5, like that. So I reviewed the current literature about, again, taking all of these vitamins and nutrients, supplements rather, and the guru of studies in the United States is the National Institute of Medicine, National Institutes of Health, of which they have a section on complementary medicine. You can look it up. And their latest a review of in 2019, 2020 of antioxidants, of using vitamins and all that, is that again there is no good evidence that it really prevents the diseases, and they point out the reasons being more likely the fact that people tend to imbalance their body. You know, you think that vitamin A is good, and so instead of taking so many units, international units, you take 20,000, you know, or you think vitamin C is terrific antioxidant, so instead of just taking 450 or 500 or whatever milligrams, you take triple, quadruple, quintuple. And what these studies have actually shown, that I really looked at it individually, is that it really goes back to balance. Because in the body, the food that you're eating that has antioxidants, they're balanced. You know, they are, and when the antioxidants that we have in our own body is balanced and are quite different from the ones really that you take on a pill basis. They are balanced in the sense that many of our own innate antioxidants may have antioxidant but also pro-oxidant effect, and may come in different kinds of
It's complicated.
chemistry. It's complicated.
But the point is, and there's been so many doctors actually, several years ago, several doctors signed a petition to request that companies stop sponsoring studies on supplements, because so many studies had shown they just don't do what they say they will do. Part of the problem is it's really hard to get that vitamin or mineral to survive the processing into the supplement form. So again, there are notable exceptions. There are some that actually make it there and are necessary. So
Yes.
follow your doctor if they
Agreed.
say to take it. But for the most part, a lot of these supplements, it really is better to eat your antioxidants.
And
right?
many of the studies I reviewed show that people take more than the RDA, that's the dietary recommendations for how to use it. More people use it. And even if you don't grab more capsules, the fact is that those vitamins are also in the other processed products, that it's in the cereal that you're eating, it's in the milk additional, it's in the other things. So, you know, try to stay with more healthy, natural foods. Bottom line is, in diet, I believe very strongly in eating foods closer to the table, where you get it directly from the fresh market perhaps, and then cook it, and or do it in your home without adding too many other additives into it.
It's really better. And again, life is balanced. Look, we don't want to be miserable either, right? So in our family, what we try to do is we just make sure during the week, no sugar. So maybe someone will add sugar to the coffee. I don't. But my kids certainly are not allowed sugary cereals. We don't have desserts is the big thing during the week. But
Just Monday to Friday, though.
Right. But then come the weekend, we might binge a little. But the thing is, these foods are also designed to be addictive. So if you limit it to just the weekend, you also reduce the chances of becoming so addicted to it that you can't stop eating it, right?
I'll go to a movie house, for instance, and get popcorn.
Right.
And
So,
consume
and it's
the
not in the
entire box.
house. We don't keep it in the house. So we have
Yeah.
no sodas, no chips, no nothing in the house, no desserts in the house, Monday to Friday. And on the weekends, you know, we'll go a little nuts. So from Jamia on Facebook, what can you do to help diminish the occurrence of syringoma on the face? Is it related to one's diet, hypercholesterolemia, or aging?
It's related to many of what we now call the exposomes, the environmental factors that are either exogenous or endogenous that affect the body. For instance, aging is a process that happens to occur every day for all of us. And in the aging process that are contributed to by the diet and everything else that we talked about, you can then have skin aging occur. And in skin aging, among the first things that occur would be a little bit of discoloration. You will have some lentigines, and then eventually some people who are more prone to it will develop syringomas. So it's all part of the aging process. And then, of course, as with people who've really been photo damaged as another factor that triggered the aging process in people like that, they will develop not just syringomas or warts or lentigines or epithelials, but they will actually begin to develop cells that no longer mature correctly, that no longer follow the rules, and instead start to becoming actinic keratosis. Those are the scaly spots, which are kind of like precancer.
Precancers,
They're
yeah.
actually beginning cancer already, and then go on to, basal cell, squamous cell, and even a melanoma. So these are all part of the aging process of
So
the skin.
I have other questions I want to just get to very quickly, and we have other questions. So, guys, we don't have a lot of time. It's like 8 minutes left, so please get your questions in early as much as possible. So, sleep and exercise. Do
There
they
are
affect the skin?
Yes, there are lots of studies now. I'd love to. I'm going to give them the chapter in a webinar series of webinars digital book that was just published by University of the Philippines. And what it does is it talks about the aging process. And my contribution at chapter 7 is on diet as being part of them, and the environment. These are basically what we've been talking about that contribute towards the aging process and all those changes that we were talking about.
And sleep and exercise.
Remind me to give you that link.
I will. Sleep and exercise.
And sleep and exercise
Important.
are part of it. There are actually studies that show this seems to be a fairly standard thing already.
Yeah.
That studies have shown that each and every one of us, my little boy, grandson, he's no longer like that, he's up there, and 81-year-old, we need 7 to 8 hours of sleep.
Sorry, the younger ones need more.
Yeah,
Gavin
of
needs
course,
9 to 11.
to grow.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we need a minimum of 7 to 8 hours of sleep in order to reboot, in a sense, our computer
And it's
brain.
anti-inflammatory.
Also,
Lack of sleep is pro-inflammatory.
Very much so.
Bad food is pro-inflammatory. Exercise is funny because it's also pro-inflammatory, but it's good inflammation, and we need it.
right.
And stress is pro-inflammatory.
And some studies have also shown that this sleep should not be somebody who works at night, like our frontliners.
Unfortunately. Yeah.
Unfortunately, somebody who works at night and sleeps
All
in the
day.
daytime to
You-
try
yeah.
to recap.
You need the circadian rhythm.
You need the circadian rhythm.
Exactly.
For it.
Just sleeping at night. Train yourself. She, for as long as I knew her growing up, slept nothing. Because she'd be studying till 3 in the morning and getting up at 5, whatever. Even she, after a lifetime of this, managed to train herself to sleep 7 to 8 hours. And it won't be easy right away. You might need melatonin. Melatonin, by the way, is fantastic. It's not addictive. It's not a drug.
There's
it's
a
secreted by the
supplement
hormone.
that I highly recommend.
She
because of its
recommends it
antioxidant
as a
effect.
daily thing, as an oxidant to her patients. I take it every night for anti-inflammation. It also helps me sleep better. So,
And those have very good evidence-based studies, by the way,
Exactly.
about its antioxidant effects.
all right, another one, Anna, on YouTube. What is the best diet for people with chronic dermatitis? Macrobiotic, vegan. This vegan thing. So she talked earlier a lot about balance, right?
Yeah.
And I mentioned how with my kids I say life is, and they go balance. Life is balance. So some of the diets that are really extreme, may not be the best idea. It depends again on if you have a very specific condition like celiac disease that requires very particular management in the diet. Otherwise, you really want what our grandmothers, our ancestors knew as a good balanced diet, right? And the one that I always recommend, she tends to agree with, is the Mediterranean diet. Because
That's right.
there's a lot of fish oils, omega-3s. You still have some meat, but not a lot. You have olive oil, fresh on salads. I would just recommend up the intake of coconut oil in the Mediterranean diet. So
Right.
mix them both. Lots of
Mix
fresh
the olive oil
greens.
and the
Yeah.
coconut oil and
Lots of stuff like hummus, not expensive to make, extremely healthy, anti-inflammatory, fantastic. In Filipino foods, we have ube and kamote.
tubers.
The tubers are fantastic anti-inflammatory, antioxidant foods. So I guess in short answer to your question, what helps with chronic dermatitis would be an anti-inflammatory diet. The quickest shorthand would be the Mediterranean, but up your intake of coconut oils and local tubers. And on that note, can you tell them a bit about your anti-inflammatory diet?
Oh yeah, for the first time I have a
Really nice study.
We have a study on coconut oil all this time since year 1998. I've been doing studies on coconut oil and monolaurin on the skin topically. 5 years ago I thought, well, if it can do that on the skin applied, how about if I ask? It has apparently, there was a study that came out about the high number of phenolics and flavonoids present in coconut oil. These are antioxidants that are present not in the fatty acids or anything. It's in what we call the non-saponifiable portion, very tiny portion of the coconut oil. And this has been shown many times already to be very high in coconut oil. So I said, well, if that's there, it's got to be anti-inflammatory then. And inflammation is the major thing that drives diseases of man in the skin: psoriasis, atopic dermatitis, acne, contact dermatitis. I said, let me see how really good it is as anti-inflammatory. So we did. It's just a 28-day study. It's just for, how many people did we have? 30 people. It's just for 30 people in psoriasis, which is a very inflammatory condition. We got moderate psoriasis. Bottom line, we did biopsies at the beginning of the study, biopsies at the end of the 28-day study. They were examined by us. They were examined by a big university.
Biopsies, okay? This isn't just looking at the skin and measuring it externally. This is punctures of the actual skin cells, tissues.
Right. So we sent them for immunohistochemistry in a huge university abroad, and they showed that more than 50% of the people who took coconut oil showed anti-inflammatory effect, whereas only 40% of those who were using another kind of oil, corn oil, to cook and to bake and to do processing of foods and all of that, showed 40% pro-oxidant effects.
Right.
And we are now analyzing the RNA sequencing of it, and hopefully we'll get it soon. And it also looks very hopeful. We are expecting it will be similar to the IHC, because after all, what drives the cells to produce this immunohistochemical markers.
Okay. We
Whatever.
think that, yes, that genetically we will find further support for the anti-inflammatory effects of eating coconut oil. Aside from VCO, asks Siege Pass on YouTube, what other kinds of food are necessary to repair lipids? Are there any recommended vitamins or supplements?
The kinds of oils you mean that I recommend besides the coconut oil?
To repair lipids or any supplements?
To repair lipids, the linoleic acid containing, the polyunsaturated, but not too much, because you remember the polyunsaturated is not really very antioxidant. They have more of the...
Yeah, they're a little problematic.
Yeah.
So here's the funny thing about polyunsaturated fats.
But it's useful for also repair of things like the barrier cell membrane and
of
all
the
that.
skin. So polyunsaturated fats are by far in most things that we eat. It's almost impossible, I would argue, to get away from them.
That's right.
Therefore, if you up your virgin coconut oil,
and the olive oil also.
then you'll probably get a good balance anyway, without actually having to do hardcore calculations of how much you're eating. In terms of supplements, like eating fish oils or eating coconut
If you
oil,
don't like seafoods, then you'll have to place fish oils in your diet. But if you just place a couple of sardines or tuna or salmon in your diet, and for three times a week, I think you're going to be eating meat. Just so there is omega-3, because it's very rich in fatty fish, and then you can have a little bit of also some of your meats, and at least you get oils from both.
balance.
A little bit balanced.
Just again, for me, you know what? The one area where I really would life is balance. Everything is balanced, right? But if there's one thing to try to cut out as much as possible, it's really like prepackaged candies, juices, sports drinks, cakes, and stuff like that as much as possible.
Right.
And again, maybe just have it on the weekend.
Yeah.
But the prepackaged stuff, it's just really not even food. I had one more thing.
And if you eat this kind of a food, balanced, natural foods as much as possible, you already get your vitamins and minerals there.
Yeah,
You really don't need additional packaged also vitamins and minerals.
Oh, yes. I was going to ask, what about people who are vegetarian for like religious or cultural reasons? Where can they get oils? Coconut oil.
In the
Coconut oil and VCO.
Olive
Okay.
or coconut
Ruth
oil.
on Facebook is asking, vitamin C and zinc supplements have been recommended to boost immune system, especially
Against
now in the
COVID.
pandemic.
Yeah.
Does it have that kind of effect on skin?
I'll tell you in a couple more months. I'm actually starting soon a study in a huge center
But
here.
on VCO.
No, it's
on
going to be
vitamin-
compared with people.
vitamin C
It's
and
going to
zinc.
be compared with COVID-19 patients, mild to moderate, who are given the standard of care, which, like you said, is vitamin C and zinc is being given at the quarantine stations. Whereas the other side of the randomized trial that we're going to make is just giving them the VCO the way I described it to you earlier. because I feel our hypothesis is that it will compare even better, because in addition to its effects on a broad spectrum of bacteria that infects many of our COVID patients as well, and the coconut oil for the also antiviral effect, that VCO applied topically into the entry point of viruses and bacteria. 85% of them actually go either to the nose, to the mouth, through your fingers and all that. And so by using it externally in those places, immediately it should help.
Yeah. The concern too, Ruth, I don't know if you heard about vitamin C is really, really one of notoriously unstable.
Right.
So it's very difficult to process into a supplement where it survives.
Into a dark bottle so that no sun, no light.
It's very photolabile. It's got its issues.
Right.
So
there are some esters of it that's okay.
Even in skincare, getting vitamin C to survive is very, very difficult.
Right.
So there may not be a lot of vitamin C in that. Okay, our last question is from Jamia again. Is it true that sugars and in effect glycation causes increased skin hyperpigmentation? I haven't heard that.
Sugars. What sugars do is that they tend to really increase the weight.
They're also really addictive.
A little bit of an answer. I hope one little answer. You take a lot of carbs, you begin to be, and you happen to be insulin resistant. So they will develop a little bit of sugar. Then it becomes diabetes. Then it becomes hypertension. Guess what? You're given drugs to lower the sugar. You're given drugs to bring down the hypertension. Some of them would be diuretics, and a lot of drugs actually that is given for diabetes and hypertension and cardiovascular disease are photosensitive. What does it mean? When you take it internally, you get exposed to outdoor sun, indoor lights, and all these videos that we're watching. What happens then is you induce hyperpigmentation, and aging continues, and before you know it, you get all those little spots, including the syringoma that was asked earlier.
Okay, so sort of sugar per se doesn't affect your skin. Some people like it as an exfoliant, but eating sugar, particularly white sugar, even brown sugar, very highly processed, extremely addictive. So the more of it you eat, yes, the more you can't stop your glycemic index. And then you have these other health concerns that then become a problem. And taking drugs to manage those concerns, yes, can then affect your skin, right? Definitely we recommend coconut sugar, which is the lowest glycemic index. The next thing we'd probably recommend is muscovado, which is raw sugar, right? Much less processed. Is it so? But in terms of sugars causing hyperpigmentation per se, doesn't seem to be any studies at the moment. Is there a specific vitamin that we can increase intaking to help with our skin's health, like vitamin E? This is from Anna on YouTube.
Balance.
Okay. Yeah, so what we know are certain supplements that people really like, and there's evidence-based studies on them. Melatonin, vitamin D, calcium, iron, folic acid. What else?
That's about it.
There's not a lot. So again, eat your vitamins. Eat your vitamins. And that means really committing to eating a salad at lunch and at dinner.
Balance your food.
What my kids eat for breakfast, which is extremely handy, and less expensive than you might think, is they buy like fruits that we then put in the freezer. We pre-cut it and we keep it in the freezer, and then every morning they get a smoothie, and we put 1/4 cup milk, 1/4 cup, it could be coconut milk, 1/4 cup yogurt, which we now make at home, so we don't even need to buy it. You don't need to add sugar because it's sweet from the fruit, and that's it. You put it in a blender. It's already iced because of the frozen fruits. And that is a balanced, wonderful meal. If you still want something sweet, make homemade peanut butter. Do you know how easy that is? Get fresh peanuts from the market and stick it in a food processor for 5 to 7 minutes. Believe it or not, you don't need to add anything else. No oil, no sugar, no nothing. It makes a really good peanut butter. Put a tablespoon of that, extremely healthy, good protein, cholesterol-free. Put that in the smoothie. Ta-da! Okay, Ruth is asking, can food with high salt affect skin?
Yes, because if you do it, regularly, it
dehydrates.
makes you prone to retention of fluids.
There you go.
contributes towards your hypertension maybe, then you'll have to take a diuretic. And when you take the diuretic, many of them are photosensitizers.
Okay, there you go. Photosensitizers means that you become more prone to hyperpigmentation.
And right.
Yeah. Okay, so last question, and then I will let you go. Thank you for overstaying a little bit. Ruth is asking, can we lessen pigmentation of port wine stains through the diet?
No.
No.
Yeah, those are inherited, or those are genetically, made. Dilatation of blood vessels in the skin, and so they have to be lasered or cauterized, whatever is, depending upon the extent. You have to see as always, I always say, please go see a dermatologist. And
it may not be a port wine stain. You want to make sure it's correct.
Good. She's good.
You want to make sure the dermatologist also has access to the newest stuff, because maybe there's newer treatments for it, and there's
That's
new
right.
stuff all the time, guys.
There's
So,
actually a drug that you can take internally
there you go.
that can stop it from developing early on. From babies, it's usually given in children, and then they sort of shrink.
There
It's
you go.
amazing, the new thing.
So on that note, I will let you go. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, thank you, thank you.
You overstayed, and I forced you to because we had
That
so
was
many
a
technical
lot of fun,
issues.
folks. Thank you very much. I hope you learned
Stay
a little bit. I
healthy.
know I'm a little bit strange about my recommendations about vitamins and diet, but it promise if you do it, you'll find.
And it's all evidence-based. I mean, you can grill her on this, and she'll send you the citations.
okay.
I'm not sure you want to read all of them, but
Right.
okay. Thanks, Mom.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, sweetie.
Bye.
Take care. Love you.
Love you too. Okay, so back to me very quickly. I hope that was helpful. Our brains are connected to our bodies. Our skin is our largest organ in the body. It's all interconnected. So what we put on our skins is one thing. What we put in our bodies is another. And if we're good about what we put in our bodies, then that will show on our skin, our hair, our nails, and it'll show in our heart and our liver and our kidneys. It just is all, there is no downside to eating healthily, right? And the key word I hope you get away from this is balance. And if there's anything to cut out, it is the highly processed junk stuff, or limit it really to just the weekends. So again, as a reminder, you can buy our virgin coconut oil for your salads and your coffee and your skin. This is Know It Oil, and Oils Well, which is the same thing but with monolaurin in it. And monolaurin again is the purified sort of extracted lauric acid from virgin coconut oil, which is that stuff, those pellets. And on vmvhypoallergenics.com or vmvhypoallergenics.ph, there's a current special now actually ongoing for these guys where you get 30% off if you get these 5, which is roughly the same price as one big bottle. But these are so handy in the time of COVID because you can keep them in your pocket. The frontliners over here love them for having them in their pocket for regular disinfecting and to help with all the dryness from all the washing and whatnot. And in the Philippines, you get a free Clark wash in this cute little I Got My Dew pouch. And this is an allergen-free hair and body wash, which is great for frequent hand washing, which alone can be irritating. And in vmvhypoallergenics.com, you get a great tube of Boo Boo Balm, which is like awesome for so many things when you shop. So there. And for viewers in the Philippines, don't forget we do have 2 clinical studies ongoing at VMV Skin Research Center and clinics on chronic spontaneous urticaria and hidradenitis suppurativa. Very difficult, complex condition. So if you have these on and off hives, itchy welts, right? That's one. And the other is boils that keep coming back in the skin folds of the underarms, the neck, the groin even. These are great studies that you might want to participate in. You'd have to get screened, but it's worth it. Drop us a private message. If you'd like a teleconsultation with my mother or any dermatologist or nutritionist that we work with, and we do work with a nutritionist because, again, it's holistic, right? Drop us a private message and we can make that happen. And for everywhere, if you've had a patch test, you can share your results with us and we can customize recommendations for you based on your particular allergens. There. Don't forget, please, to subscribe and like and click the little bell on YouTube. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter. I am on Instagram as @Laura @VMV, @ spelled out. So Laura @VMV. and I'm happy to chat with you about anything. I don't tend to DM because I just never look at them. So just drop me a comment, and I'm happy to discuss anything. And yeah, we will be here live every Wednesday morning in the Philippines at 9 a.m., which is 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in the States. And let us please know in the comments if you enjoyed this, what other things you'd like to hear about, particularly from a dermatopathologist's perspective, and we can make that happen. Otherwise, we'll be uploading content, hopefully every week on YouTube. And that's it. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Have a wonderful evening for those of you in the States and other countries. And yeah, thank you very much. Bye.